Hello and welcome to Talk the Walk. I'm Azam Khan. The number of registered street sleepers in Hong Kong went up by 2.5 times in the last 10 years, according to a report from the Audit Commission last November. Experts say the real number of registered homeless people is a lot higher than officially reported ones. All this had been made worse during the pandemic in the last few years, as COVID plight pushed many who were already on the brink of being homeless. My guest today is Jeffrey Rotmeyer, Hong Kong resident who founded a nonprofit called ImpactHK in 2017, a community of volunteers which dedicates to not only helping the homeless get back on their feet, but tackles the stigma surrounding the issue by bridging society and those who have nowhere to go. Mr. Rotmeyer, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here with you.
Could you just talk a little bit about how the homeless group is a misunderstood group in society in Hong Kong and what you guys do to try and tackle that?
Yeah. I think misunderstood is a very fair, analysis of, the general understanding of people in Hong Kong, but also in Vancouver, Canada, where I come from. These are, at the end of the day, these are not homeless people. They're just people. And oftentimes people in society, they distance themselves so much from this community. And they sometimes pretend that these other human beings that are in pain in our city only need a room or only need food. When we know ourselves, that's just not enough. In my life, I know that I need a friend. I know that I need community. I know that I need purpose. So as an organization, we try to focus a lot on education, raising more social awareness about how these are human beings at the end of the day, and they need the same things that we do. But also at the same time, we're trying our very, very best to keep improving and developing better strategies to help people out of homelessness. And as an organization now, we've helped very close to 500 people off the streets into shelter.
Wow. How much of it is there a cultural layer to it as well when you're dealing with the homeless people here and engaging with them? And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of them are the elderly people. And does that add an extra layer of challenge in terms of perhaps it's not in their culture to ask for help necessarily, especially at that age. So to bring them in, does that add an extra layer or a different challenge?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I would say Hong Kong is actually quite it's a hard city. It's a tough city. It's a city that's very focused on, money and wealth. And it is a very wealthy city. And you have a lot of people here with extreme wealth. And you have a very, very high percentage of people who are facing extreme poverty. But it is a judgmental society, but most societies are, Canada as well. So it makes it extremely hard, for these people outside. But Hong Kong is quite unique in that the average age on the streets before COVID was 63 years old. So it is a very elderly population, which is quite unique. And also, we must say that since COVID, you've seen the age drop down to probably about the low 50s on the streets. You've seen a big increase since COVID, and you've actually seen the percentage of females on the streets almost double since the start of COVID. So it's a very alarming stat. And when it comes to working with the elderly on the streets, of course, you have a lot of different issues. Many of these individuals have been on the streets for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. And it's hard. They're very resourceful, they're strong, they're independent, and they want to be treated with respect. And the process of helping someone off the streets is extremely difficult because almost every person you've met outside really has no hope or goals for their future. They're lost and they're in a lot of pain. And each person, again, is so different and unique as we all are. So that's why as a charity, we're trying to be as holistic as possible and having seniors programs, drug rehabilitation programs, employment assistance programs, medical programs. Our scope and our range of our holistic model is very wide, as it has to be.
Right. You mentioned all these great programs and channels that you guys have, but I imagine it's not necessarily even as easy as, bringing them to the program. There must be an element of sort of convincing them, because like you said, a lot of them are adapted in their ways and the way they're living on the street, especially if they're older, I imagine.
Yes, and if you think about that word, convince. That is a typical strategy that charities have, and they go out on the streets and they try to persuade or convince this person in pain to leap up and attack their own future. But, we're not lifesavers as an organization. We don't save lives. We provide real opportunities for people, and we give people care and kindness again and again and again, really in hopes of earning their trust. But what gives an individual the hope to escape, the serious pain of not wanting to live? It doesn't come from a room. It doesn't come from a job. It comes from the heart. It comes from the opportunity to have friendship, the opportunity to feel like you're involved in a community, the opportunity to understand more about your strengths and your talents and to find your purpose, right? And it's a process to get there. And I think that's something we've learned over the years and a model that we want to continue improving at.
Right. Could you talk a little bit about the scope of your work as it pertains to on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis and the different ways you help tackle the issue?
We start, with what we call as a kindness walk, which is a very non-invasive walk of going outside and making sure people have food, seeing people again and again. And we're seeing about, as an organization and community, we're supporting about 500 unique individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness throughout the city in 14 different locations on our walks. Those walks are, as I mentioned, as considerate as we can possibly be. No photography is allowed. It's not really a place where we're having these persuasive type of conversations. It's really about earning trust. And that model is working, and people are coming in our doors nearly daily because they trust us and they want to have more support with our organization. As an organization, we've taken many steps forward quite quickly because there are so many caring people in Hong Kong. We've had, well over 20,000 volunteers in our short history. So it is a big movement of caring people. And that makes it quite exciting because it gives potential. Because, in my opinion, the greatest way to help people out of extreme poverty is through education, but not educating the people on the streets, but actually educating society and raising more social awareness about how important it is to care for people in pain versus judging them. And that is overall how it starts. But once somebody comes in our doors, that's where we get to know their specific talents and strengths and specific needs. And we give them a real opportunity. And we have very, very strong program from counseling to mentorship to our shelter. We do about 300 to 400 meals a day. We have our own kitchen, which employs individuals out of homelessness. And in fact, actually about 1/3 of our full-time staff used to experience homelessness. We've now hired, I think, 30 people full-time who were previously experiencing homelessness when we first met them. So it's a big part of our model. And we also are helping a lot of individuals in our employment assistance program, just helping them with resume building, skill training, development, interview skills, and we're helping people get jobs quite quickly with other companies as well.
I feel like an overlooked group is that there's a lot of people who are already on the brink of being pushed towards homelessness in Hong Kong. It's a very fine line, and there's a lot of tension and stress that comes from being within that limbo. And then COVID, I imagine, just sort of pushed a lot of people over towards towards having nowhere to go. So could you just talk a little bit about that challenge and what you guys have learned over the last few years with everything that happened?
Yeah, the homelessness situation in Hong Kong it's a mental health crisis. And, when you see the numbers going up as they are, that's not really going to stop because, we work with people who are very alone. And of the nearly 500 people we've helped into shelter, over 90% have no emergency contact. They're very, very alone in their lives. So it's a painful thing, and if you look at depression and people isolating themselves, this is a very lonely city. You look outside of any betting station or in a park at 11 p.m., you will see people quite alone. So we see this as a mental health crisis. And, you don't help an individual who's facing that amount of pain, who really is questioning their existence and if they even want to live anymore. You don't solve those issues with rooms. So as an organization, we do have to really dig deep and put our heart on the table and be a little bit more vulnerable with our clients and have a very strong ratio, typically about 13 or 15 to 1 with our social worker and client ratio, which is very, very good because it takes a lot of care to work with this community.
Right.
And they need it. And there's really no other way to do it if you want to have a successful model, in my opinion.
Sure. Obviously, during the COVID time, were a lot of the programs shut down or it ran into a lot of roadblocks because of the restrictions? How did you guys navigate through that, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, we just kept going. We didn't stop for a day. COVID or typhoons, we keep moving. We're a 7-day-a-week organization because our community outside need help 7 days a week. And if we're not feeding and we're not providing food support or medical help, they're just not getting it. And that's just unacceptable for us. So it is a big commitment that we make, and we take that very responsibly. During COVID, I think it was a time where, everybody suffered. Everybody's been feeling pain. It's been an awful time in Hong Kong with COVID for many reasons. But the people who have the least are always suffering the most. And it's something to keep in mind, and making sure that we keep emphasizing how important it is to stand up and care for people in our community. Seeing people in pain in the city has become a normality. It's become accepted somehow, and it shouldn't be. It's an unacceptable state, and it's really important that we do what we can.
Right. You mentioned earlier the kindness walk that you do. You also bring a lot of different people from the private sector, different groups, to join on the walk to help bring more awareness to the cause and sort of just bridge that gap and remove layers of stigma around the issue. Is that right?
Yes, that's it's a big part of my job. I used to be a teacher, and just teaching in a different way, and our staff are doing the same. We're trying our best to open up, and get into as many ears and hearts as we can in the city to make sure people understand more about this community and how there is a solution for homelessness. And it's never an easy one, but there is one. And I think, that's part of, our top priority is really to make sure that more and more people in this city understand that. And I do have, hope in that. I can see it working. It's a process to get there. It's a tough job, obviously, because of the difficulties in life all around us. But I feel like it's an attainable goal. And ending homelessness on the streets of Hong Kong is also an attainable goal. And I believe we're going to get there.
I'm going to pause you right there just real quick as we go for a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Jeff Rotmeyer. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk the Walk. I'm speaking with Jeff Rotmeyer, founder of Hong Kong-based nonprofit Impact Hong Kong. Jeff, I was hoping you could share a little bit about the journey that brought you to do what you do right now. You mentioned that you were a teacher before, so I just want to know a little bit about the journey that brought you here.
Yeah, it's been an amazing experience. I came here. I've taught in the public education system, actually, in primary school in Sai Wan Ho here for 13 years. So it gave me a really good understanding of Hong Kong culture, and I've really loved living here. It's been a great opportunity in my life to be here, and I did get into charity work quite early on, using sport. Using sport as a vehicle to earn trust with people and to try to give them an opportunity to be involved in community and to have fun and do healthy activities. And after doing that, that charity experience for a while, I had a friend who was actually going to a park in Sham Shi Po who invited me to go with him because he knew I was interested in charity work. And him and I just simply went into the park and distributed food. It was such an eye-opening experience because, at that time, about 9 years ago, I never even knew that homelessness was a problem here. And, it was quite a night, that first night. And I wanted to do it again. So I had an idea to invite friends to go with me one night a month, which is not a lot, just one night a month. And, we had a good group of people. And I think it was about 6 months later, we had too many volunteers, about 40 people. So it gave an opportunity to expand and go from doing it once a month to twice a month. And, it led to 4 times a month and 8 times a month, and then added new locations. Great. And that's how it all started. Yeah, it was a really beautiful experience that was always just one step at a time. And it was really a learning process of how we can adapt and do better.
With any breakthrough moments, like you were like, okay, this is something that I can do full time. This is something that I can dedicate everything towards. And we got something really going here to become a movement that you guys are now.
Yeah, exactly. I was living in North Point on Hong Kong Island at that time, and there was a footbridge over King's Road there where some individuals experiencing homelessness were sleeping. And I would typically stop by there on my way home from work, and I saw a couple up there, a husband and wife who just became homeless quite recently, and their child was taken away from them. Getting to know them, becoming friends, and seeing an opportunity for them to actually get out. Had some parties, raised some cash, and got them into an apartment. Slowly, their son was able to stay over on weekends. And then, over a couple of years, the boy then became able to live with his parents again fully and is doing really well. And actually, they've just gone back to the Philippines last week. And I've just been speaking to them all day. They're just reunited with their family there. But, once I realized that we can actually help an individual off the streets into shelter, that's when I had the idea to then register it as a charity and to give it a go. Never would have imagined we'd be where we are today, but I can understand why, because really we've just had such a great, caring community empowering this movement really from day one.
How would you, just real quick, how would you compare the from then 15 years ago to now, like how would you compare the awareness around the issue, and from Hong Kong's perspective, like the societal approach and understanding of the issue? Is there any difference or major differences that stand out to you?
I mean, the numbers have obviously increased, but
Right.
you know, knowledge-wise, and in my life, you know, homelessness was just never a topic. Now, obviously, for me, it's an everyday topic. But it is
Right.
interesting that, you know, I've had the opportunity to not only meet such unbelievably inspiring people off the streets, but you know, to also work with such a caring NGO sector in Hong Kong. You know, there's so many great NGOs in the city, great leaders, great caring, passionate people involved in that sector, and it's just been a really I'm just so grateful to know and to be a part of that. I never really knew that whole charity sector existed, and I couldn't imagine my life without that community now. It's been a constant learning. And I think really the key in learning is that you also have agility, and you're also able to you know, adapt and to improve. And that's what we're doing. You know, we only have really one goal, and that's of ending homelessness in Hong Kong. We want to help these individuals the best we can, and we have to adapt and keep improving.
Right.
So we're shutting down, you know, sometimes good programs that are doing well. We're closing those programs because we can do better ones, and that's really the key.
That's awesome. And you know, you mentioned community, and for me, that's the thing that stands out the most, and that I admire the most about Impact is the community that you guys have created, the ecosystem that comes with that, the ability to reduce challenges, then create more allies, and then, you know, it creates a safety nets then for you guys to be able to streamline it better. So can you just talk about the importance of that? I know you mentioned earlier the different programs you had and everything, but the building of the community can solve pretty much any sort of issue.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And, you know, this community is incredible. You know, we have a sports program. I'd argue it's probably the biggest sports program of any homeless charity in the world, which is a strange statement to make, but it doesn't take much to get to that level. And I love asking, you know, students, you know, why do you think we have a sports program? You know, and it makes them kind of question, like, yeah, what is up with that, right? It's a homeless charity of a sports program. Well, yeah, because people like to play sports. People like to engage in fun activities, to meet friends, to have a laugh. People need that.
Camaraderie.
And our sports program, our sports program is really cool. You know, I the other day in one of our sports room, we actually have a curling class. So as a Canadian, I'm very proud of that. We don't have ice in there. You know, we don't have that high of a budget, but you know, it's a fun curling class, and I poked my head in there the other day to watch this class, and I think you had like 8 seniors playing this game. You know, one lady is on a wheelchair, and, you know, I'm watching these 8 people that I actually knew. I think I knew 6 of them while they were sleeping outside. And I'm watching these 8 individuals giving each other high fives and laughing. And it's honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life, you know, because these are people who were all so alone not long ago, and now they feel so welcomed, so a part of a community. Their routine, you know, and having sports, the importance of having a routine, the importance of waking up at the same time and knowing where you're going and what you need to do. It's really working. It's a process of how long it takes to help an individual out of homelessness, because, you know, we work with such a wide range of people with schizophrenia or you know, tons of issues on the streets here. So, but it is beautiful.
Yeah, you're right. It's a process to build a proper community. That's the way to do it from the ground up, and that's a way to ingrain then, you know, the sense of the need to be kind and help others, help those that cannot help themselves. And I feel like that can get lost in a big city, especially in Hong Kong, where there's just so much numbness to that. But the community building and community engagement, you know, sort of removes all of that and ingrains that sort of kindness and humanity.
I'll throw one more story, because it was just last night. I just started a new walking and jogging class in one of the playgrounds near our center. And, you know, we had, I think it was about 12 individuals. And actually 3 of the people who joined the class were people who we've never had in our programs. They're just people who live in the building next to our center. And that's one thing we're trying to do in the area of Tai Kok Choi, where we have most of our centers, is we're trying to build not just, you know, care for the homeless community here, but also more awareness and more inclusive activities. And it was really cool because we had, three seniors joined this class last night. And you'd never know who used to be homeless or who didn't, but you definitely saw the care amongst the group, and it was just very, very cool. I think it's just something we want to keep
That's
going
awesome.
at.
Yeah, that's a sign of a community right there, like you said. That it's just people, like it just all intertwines. That must be very gratifying as well for you to see. As you guys continue to grow and work in different sectors, I know you have a retail shop now, and you're finding different other workspaces to get the volunteers involved. How do you, as you guys continue to grow, how do you keep everyone on the same page and sort of stay on the ball with, in terms of the grassroots mission of what you guys do?
Yeah, it's a learning process. I'm a CEO now, and I'm new to that world. I come from the teaching world, but I love it. And I've got a big team here, and I think we're just very, very united and caring for this cause. But yeah, strategy plays a very big role in what we're doing every day. So we have to make sure that we're aligned and we know what we're doing. But we've got a lot of moving parts. Social enterprise is very interesting. I love business. I love social enterprise so much. And I think it is one of the big futures of charity. I think it's very important to be financially sustainable. We've dabbled in it in different ways, and we're learning. We've made mistakes, and we're improving all the time. Our coffee shop that we have is within the UBS office, so unfortunately it's not open to the public. But that's a very good model in working with thousands of UBS employees there in IFC. We also have just started a very unique thing of using coffee waste to make soap. And,
awesome.
That soap is being made by individuals in our community for one of their classes. They're making this soap with the coffee grounds, and it's a pretty incredible product, So we're just trying to build on that model. But overall, we're doing some exploratory committees and trying to look at how we can create a social enterprise that really can pay the bills in the long run, which is aligned with our vision and our mission as an organization. And probably most importantly is an employment opportunity that our community outside are really seeking and can get support with. So it's been, it's exciting.
Are those the goals for this year looking forward? Just sort of trying to expand new ways of, helping to get employment for the volunteers and for the homeless?
Yes, I think, this coming year our top focus is really to strengthen our mental health support. Okay. Our drug rehabilitation support, our counseling programs, our social work programs, and also our outreach programs, and really getting a better job with that. We're partnering with Médecins Sans Frontières for MSF, the charity, which is quite exciting to really improve our mental capacity, clinical psychologist support, hiring our first nurse, first 24-hour manned shelter. So we're really taking some big steps there. And I think the following year after that, we're going to be a little bit more focused on the social enterprise and really developing a long-term shelter plan. The shelter plan in Hong Kong is the most complicated and difficult challenge you have because of the price of property and because of the cross-department work that you have to do in order to open up your own facility. So we're still trying to explore ways to do that. Currently, right now, we're renting a private hostel in Mongkok off an owner and have some support to do so. But it is the biggest challenge in the long run is definitely shelter.
Jeff Rotmeyer, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.